Will it be your first time to go over this too? Okay.
Not all of it.
Not all, okay, but it's definitely not your, like this, just a refresher for you, right? Okay, so you're gonna understand it more today because you've read it, we've already gone over it one time, and it's gonna start clicking with you. So this information is something that I'm gonna refer back to throughout the entire semester. If I was on campus with y'all through your entire year, I'm gonna refer back to it always. If I'm ever in lab with you and you're doing chemical, I'm gonna refer back to this information. It's just something that you have to have. I don't care what brand you use. You can use Matrix, you can use Rusk, Paul Mitchell, Joico, whatever. This information will follow you. You still have to know that brand that you're using and understand that brand and its recommendations. But this is the basis of color and it will never change no matter what. So this will be your first time hearing it. Mostly for you, and it's just gonna be a refresher, so you're gonna start like light bulbs are gonna start coming on. And then when we start applying color and you actually see the difference in stuff, and you can actually see those underlying pigments showing, then you're gonna be like, oh, okay, that makes perfect sense. But the color wheel and the law of color will never change. It does not matter if it's an American system or if it's an international level system. The color wheel and the level system is the same across the board, across like globally. You have 3 primary colors that are gonna be red, yellow, and blue. Those are the fundamental elements of all color. If you have these 3 colors, you can make any color under the rainbow. In the rainbow, under the spectrum, you can make anything you want to make. You just have to know how to mix them in order to make them. When you're looking at your primary colors, which 2 of those are warm?
Yellow and red.
Okay, so which one is cool?
Blue.
Okay, so your red and yellow are going to be your warm colors. Blue is the only cool in your primary colors. So your cool tone is your largest molecule. So that's going to be the first to leave the hair when you're removing pigment from the hair, and that color is always going to appear cooler and more subdued. So when you're thinking warm and you're thinking cool, think of a dry erase board and think of a chalkboard. One's bright and shiny and one's just kind of dull and bleh. So a lot of times your cool colors can look like this because there's just not any warmth to it. So think of the sun and how bright and warm it is and the glow behind it, and then think of the ocean and just how calm and cool it is, and everybody's just relaxed. There's not a lot of brightness there. For the warm tones, the second in molecular size is going to be what?
Red.
Red. So that color is going to appear rich and warm, just like the sun, just like a fire. And then for your next warm tone, your smallest molecular size, and it's always going to appear lighter and brighter, and it is the hardest to remove, which is yellow. So if you've ever gotten your hair done in the salon, and you're lightening your hair and you want it blonde, and then they're like, we got to tone this, we got to get the yellow out. The yellow is the last of your underlying pigments when you move from 1 to 10, and it is the absolute hardest to get out. Once that's gone, there's nothing left. Once you do not have any yellow in the hair, you're at that point of white, silver, platinum. There's nothing left inside that hair stream. So red, yellow, and blue are always going to be your primary colors.
So blue is the cool tone, and then red is the warm tone that's second in molecular type,
Mm-hmm.
and then yellow's the last.
And then yellow's the last, yep. So, once you have your red, your yellow, and your blue, your secondary colors are made from these. But if you're missing one of your primary colors, you're gonna miss part of your secondary colors. If you don't have these three, you cannot make any of the above. Well, you can make part of it, but you can't make all of it. So the colors that are made by mixing equal parts of primary colors are what?
Say it one more time.
What colors are made by mixing your primary colors?
Secondary.
Secondary. But what mixed with what makes what?
So red and yellow make orange.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Yellow and blue make green.
Okay.
Red and blue make purple.
Yes. So I'm going to fill this in as I go along with y'all. So you have your red, your yellow, and your blue are your primary colors. So your blue is your only cool tone in the primary colors. And your red and your yellow are your warm. So if you take blue and you take red, you get what?
Purple.
Purple.
Are you
Okay.
writing it in like down here? Blue,
That's what
red
I've got.
equals purple,
Mhm.
like an equation?
Uh-huh.
I did yeah.
When I
plus
made this,
equals.
I just didn't know how to put the plus and the equal sign there. Every time I tried to do that, it kicked me out, and I thought, okay, never mind. Let's leave it with some 3 little plain boxes. We'll explain what to do there. Okay, so if you've got blue and you've got red, you've got purple. Okay, so if you have red and yellow, you have what?
Orange.
Okay. And so then that leaves blue and yellow. So if you have blue and you have yellow,
Have green.
you have green. Ziploc taught us all that one.
Yes, that's the only way I ever remember that one.
So your primary colors, no matter what, blue, red, and yellow, your secondary colors are made by mixing equal parts of your primary colors. If you take your blue and your red and you make your purple, your red and your yellow and you make orange, your blue and your yellow and you make green, looking at what you made, which is purple, orange, and green, are those warm or are those cool?
They're warm.
All of them?
Purple would be cool, right?
Mm-hmm. And so would
Orange would be warm.
Green.
green. And why is that?
Cool.
Mm-hmm. And it may not be 100% cool because it does have some warmth in it. But if you had to choose one of the two, is if you had your color wheel and it was divided, it's going to be on the cusp because it's got your warm and your cool. So your red and your yellow is your only true warm in your secondary colors.
So purple and green are cool and orange is warm.
Mm-hmm. So the colors on the primary colors on the color wheel are these colors sit between on the color wheel. So when we look at an actual color wheel, which is in the papers, you're always gonna have your yellow, your blue, and your red. Orange is always gonna sit between those. Purple's always gonna sit between those, and green is always gonna sit between those. Okay, so blank and blank both have blue in them, so they are cool tones. So that's gonna be your purple and your green. And then your orange has red and yellow, so that's gonna be your warm tone. So this color wheel, I pulled it offline somewhere. It doesn't matter if you Google, like if you're ever in a salon situation and you just have brain fog and you're like, oh my God, I can't think, what am I doing? And your lady has orange hair and you're like, oh my God, how do I fix this? How do I fix this? If they don't have a color wheel in the salon, if you don't have a color wheel somewhere, just Google color wheel. 4 million will pull up. Some of them are gonna be detailed with 6,000 different colors. Some of them are just gonna be as basic as these. JC, will you do me a favor? In there, in the dispensary, there's that stack of the color wheels that kind of slide around that you buy at Michael's, you know what I'm talking about? You grab me one of those. So, if you're ever in a salon situation and you just can't think, like for some reason, the only thing you can remember is Ziploc bag, blue and yellow. Always, 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 just Google color wheel. It'll pull it up. Thank you. These are sold at like Michael's or, I don't know, maybe Hobby Lobby. Sometimes they're this big and then others this big. But when you put, say like, it's gonna tell you when adding red, and it's got you right there on green, and it's showing you brown, because it neutralizes. So on the back, if anything is across from each other, those are considered complementary colors. Side by side, they complement each other, but mixed together, they neutralize each other. So your complementary colors are found on the opposite side of the color wheel. If these colors are mixed together, they're gonna neutralize each other. So you've got violet, or you've got blue violet, and you've got yellow orange. So if these two are side by side, they look good together. But if you mix them together, it gives you brown. And so this little slide shows you that. So, what's your Christmas colors? What colors do you think of with Christmas? Red and green, okay? So red and green are complementary colors. When you think of LA Lakers, what colors do you think of? Okay. So yellow and purple, or gold and purple.
So we put this in right here on this one?
Uh-huh. And if you think Auburn football, what colors do you think? Okay. So blue and orange. Okay.
What was that second one? I'm sorry.
So red and green, yellow and purple, and blue and orange. So when I say that either they complement each other or they neutralize each other, what I mean by that is a Christmas tree or Christmas decoration is typically red and green. Have you ever thought, why did somebody put red and green together? It looks awful. It looks good together, like it complements each other. The Lakers, they are not making billions of dollars to look like they're mixed match. They look good together. The same thing for Auburn. But if you were to take a glass of red and a glass of green water and put them together, it's going to make brown. It's going to neutralize each other. Same thing for yellow and purple, same thing for the blue and orange. So if you had somebody in the salon and they have red hair and they don't want red hair anymore, just cover it up, The lazy stylist or the non-colorist is going to go grab black and put on top of it and try to hide it. A colorist would know to find the level that they're at, and then to find that same level in green and put that on the hair, and it would make it brown. It would neutralize it. So if you had someone with orange hair, what would you put on it in order to neutralize it? Blue. Yep. So, and that's part of the natural level finder that we're going to go over. And so if you were in here the other day and we were doing, this side is doing this and this side is doing that, and I'm talking about the natural underlying pigment, this is all going to come into play with that. Unless somebody has a medical condition or something else is going on, like hormones or something like that, most of the time this is going to work across the board. when someone is on medicine, and it doesn't matter if it's pharmaceutical, it was prescribed by their doctor, or if it's an illegal substance, whatever goes in your body has to come out. So whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, legal or not, no matter the case, it's going to breathe through your pores. So if you have someone who is taking medicine for thyroid affects your hormone. So they're probably taking a hormone type drug, medicine, that's going to breathe out of their scalp. It'll breathe everywhere, but it mainly escapes through the scalp. So at some point that may interfere with how a color result ends up, but there's nothing you can do about that. You don't know that that's going to happen until it happens. You can't predict it. If you go through the steps to formulate color, and you know without a shadow of a doubt, you knew their natural level, you knew what desired level they want, you knew what underlying pigment to expect, and it still goes Willy Wonka on you, there's something somewhere internal that is trying to breathe through their scalp and their hair follicle is being affected by that. If somebody sits in your chair and tells you, I'm taking blah, 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 blah. My doctor has changed me to da, 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 da. You're not gonna know what medicine that is. I'm not gonna have a clue. They can rattle off all day long. I'm taking amoxicillin, got you, it's an antibiotic. Tylenol, got you, know it. Anything else, I'm like, oh God, what's that? Is she crazy? Does she got heart problems? I'm not gonna have any idea. I don't know anything about medicine or pharmaceutical drugs. But if she's telling you, she's probably making you aware because in a different situation with a different stylist, she may have ran into this problem as far as how the chemical reacts to whatever drug is trying to breathe through her scalp.
What do you do in a case like that? Because you don't really know what the drug is.
You don't know, and it may, what's gonna affect one person may not affect somebody else, but there are shampoos on the market that, like a clarifying shampoo, but there are deeper shampoos. Malibu Sea, I believe, has some, and that's supposed to help pull out impurities from the hair before a chemical service. So if you know, or if she's giving you a heads up, you may want to use something like that before you even get started. I've never had to do that, but I have been in a salon where a client, their exact formula, they've always done the formula, nothing changed, nothing. The lady's hair, she looked like a pumpkin. They're like, what is going on? And they're asking me, and I was like, you on a different medicine? I was like, did you check, and always check your tube of color, because sometimes you pull that tube of color out and you're looking for a 6R and it might be an 8R, and you're like, okay. Or it might be an RV. So they make mistakes in the warehouse. Sometimes they put the wrong tube in the wrong box, or the box is labeled wrong, or whatever the case may be. So if you know that it's labeled like it's supposed to, it still could be wrong. The tube of color could actually be labeled wrong. That happens once in a blue moon. But if you're pretty sure that was the same tube of color, it worked on somebody else, it didn't give you any crazy result, there's something going on. And sometimes customers or clients will tell you their entire life story and not hesitate to tell you everything they've ever done from the time they were born. Before you even know their name, you know that they've murdered somebody at 5 years old. Like, they will tell you everything. And then sometimes you have the clients that are embarrassed to tell you what medicines they're on. Those are a rare few, because for some reason they are more comfortable sitting in your chair than they are sitting in a doctor's chair. They'll tell you everything. So when they do tell you stuff like that, just pay attention, because they're giving you a heads up of what could happen. And if something goes wrong and you know you followed all the steps, there's something off somewhere. But your primary colors, your secondary colors, and your complementary colors will never change, no matter what.
So you say someone comes in with green hair, and the complementary, color to correct that would be green? I mean, would red?
Would be red.
Okay.
Yep. So, even if you had, like if you had, let's say that you got red color on your shirt, and you'd rather it be a brown spot or a neutral color, you could turn right around and color it with green, and it would neutralize it out. Same thing with blue and orange or yellow and gold. So the biggest example of your complementary colors and them neutralizing each other is when you go to the salon and you're getting blonde hair. What do they always say they're gonna do? Tone it with purple.
Yeah.
We gotta put a toner on there, So for whatever reason, either they're seeing more yellow than they want, like that little baby yellow, or they just think that everybody needs a toner. Cause there are some stylists out there that no matter what you do, you're getting a toner. Not everybody needs a toner, but if there is yellow left in the hair and they're trying to be blonde without yellow or very little yellow, purple is what they're gonna use. A temporary complementary color is a purple shampoo. You send it home with that person, they don't wanna see yellow in their hair. Somebody who smokes, if they have blonde hair, you'll see older people with white beards, white mustaches, they'll be yellow around their mouth where they smoke, and it's the nicotine. If they were to wash their face with a purple shampoo, bam, super white. The lady with white hair that smokes, and that nicotine, that smoke is flying up to their hair, if they use purple shampoo, it's gonna cut that yellow, hint of yellow out of the hair, just something as simple as the nicotine. So that's your best example of complementary colors. But anything across the board, and those are just the gist of it. You can take this color wheel and put it on blue-green. So if blue-green is your problem, then red-orange is the fix.
Can I ask a question? Okay, so I know, I used to do my own hair. Most of the time it turned out great.
Yeah. That's
And
like
I
most of the
know,
time.
yeah, most of the time. The other time it cost me $300 or $400 to get it fixed. But I know that if, you know, the yellow and the purple, and you tone it and it's not yellow anymore, or the purple shampoo, but when you're talking about red, or even the orange hair, if somebody has orange hair, what do you mean by blue? Like, how does that kick in?
So when you have a color line that you're using, whether it be Matrix, Redken, Rusk, Paul Mitchell, whatever, they're always gonna have a cool series, and that cool series, their ash series, should be based on the level system. And so, for example, a level 6 ash is gonna have more green to it, not green, is gonna have more blue to it than violet.
So what would that, I mean, I know it's based on a number, because I used to use like a 10.1, and it would be like B for violet. So what would those letters be?
So if the line that you're using was 10.1V, that sounds like Rusk. They use letters and numbers. So like if theirs was 10.1V, then that's letting you know that their 0.1 stands for violet. So at that point, if they were, say, a level 6 or 7, which was showing orange, then you would need that same series of color, but to go deeper, because that 10 violet's not gonna work on a level 6, which is orange. So you just have to know your color line. You have to know where their ash series lays. And everybody wants to use a 9V. Gotta get a 9V, gotta get a 9V, gotta get a 9V. If you're a level 6, a 9's not gonna do squat for you. If you are a level 8, it may or may not help you. If you're a level 7, it's not gonna help. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to know what level you're at to where to adjust it at. But when we start doing like the actual natural level, the underlying pigment, and how to neutralize, you'll understand that a lot more once we start using actual swatch books and we actually see the color making that change. Okay, so with primary colors, secondary, and complementary colors, that's never going to change. The only thing that would change per se is the fact that it's gonna get more in depth. So if you're ever confused of it being red-orange, then you just turn this right around, and you know that red-orange is your blue-green. Anything, it does not matter, anything that's across, directly across, would fill this chart just the same. Does that make sense? So this is just your basic. So you've got your primary colors, your red, yellow, and blue. You have your secondary colors, which are the combination of, and then you have your complementary colors that start here, but can go on forever. Does that make sense? And a lot of color lines. Jesse, what did we do with that rust book? That little
Put
hand
it right here.
A lot of color lines will have a detailed color wheel in their information. Thank you. You just have to know to look for that. And let's see where Rusk is at. So with Rusk, this color wheel shows, and this is outdated a little bit because they make changes a lot. This shows you where all of their colors lay on the color wheel. So if somebody told you they did not want to see any red in the hair, but they picked out a 6R, it's gonna tell you that a 6R lays in this red area. So then you're gonna be like, I might not wanna use 6 red. She told me she didn't wanna see red. You know what I mean? So, but if you are orange, if you screwed up and you put one of these colors that are in the orange box, and then she's copper, end result, you're like, oh my God, she didn't want to be orange today. What did I do? I picked the wrong color. Because some people do that. They just grab whatever they've got. That's what they got. They think a level 6 is level 6. Well, level 6 copper and a level 6 ash are two different things. So this is going to tell you to go straight across that color wheel and to find something in this area that would neutralize that back out. But once you start doing that, you'll understand that more of how to pick. But if your color line has a color wheel that has their colors on it, you'll be like, oh, God, that makes it so much easier because you're not guessing. You'll know that it's cool or warm, but you might not necessarily know exactly where it lays because some of those lay right on the cusp of red and violet. Let me go down. So this is a rust color. It's 5.56 MR. If you know rust color, you know that that's a level 5. You know that that level 5, or that number 5 number, means that it is a mahogany. And you know that that 0.6, or that 6, is a red. So Rusk tries to make it easy for you. So they give you the number system if you're used to numbers. They give you the letter system if you're used to letters. So this means the same, no matter what. 5.56 still means mahogany red. But if you take the 5.6 out and you just say 5MR, it still means mahogany red. So if you're looking at that and you're going, well, where does mahogany fall into play? You know it's gonna have some warmth in it because there's a red listed there. But if you go over here to your color wheel, and I do not have my glasses on, so I cannot see this, but it is going to lay on the cusp of the violet and the red. It's gonna lay right on that line. So at that point, you know that you're on the edge of violet, but you're also on the edge of red, so you're gonna have a cool warm. But if you didn't have this wheel, and you didn't understand the color wheel, these numbers don't mean anything to you. You know that red's warm, but you don't understand what the mahogany is. So always, whatever color line you're using, try to see if they have one of these. And sometimes you can Google it. Sometimes you can Google Rusk color wheel or Matrix color wheel, Mitchell color wheel, and it'll tell you. But that takes the guesswork out. You're not having to guess, is that lady gonna be a cool result? Is she gonna be a warm result? And we'll get into more of that because there's a little bit more detail to that. We'll get into that later. So when you are, and this is just for y'all, like if y'all want to color this, if you wanted to if you needed to kind of put that into play. So your next page is types of hair color. So once you understand primary, secondary, and complementary colors, and whatever that little piece of paper is that has like the weird little staple marks in it. This. We need to take the staples out and staple this right in here. But I was so proud of myself that we sorted and stapled it that I forgot what I was doing. So you have certain types of hair color once you understand primary, secondary, and complementary. And you're gonna have permanent, you're gonna have demi-permanent, semi-permanent, and you're gonna have temporary. So if you look at this chart, one of these shows permanent hair color. This one. That one shows your permanent hair color. And if you look at this little ball of molecules that they've got drawn out here, so on the edge of that diagram is supposed to be the cuticle of the hair. So at this point, that clump of color has raised that cuticle and has gone inside that strand of hair. That's permanent hair color. It's all in. It goes in to stay. It's not trying to go anywhere else. It wants to live on the inside of that hair strand, okay? So then your demi-permanent hair color is on the very top. So your demi-permanent hair color, if you'll notice, is half in, half out. So if you look right on the edge of that cuticle, right there, you've got some molecules just sitting on the edge, but you also have some molecules on the interior of that hair strand. So what that means is it's half in, half out. It's meant to fade off. It did not have a strong enough developer or an ammonia content to go inside the hair 100%. So it's demi-permanent hair color. So then when you have your semi-permanent hair color, it's on the next page on the top. And if you notice, there's nothing on the inside of that hair molecule. Nothing there. It all sits right on the edge. So it stains the hair.
On that first page, there's the two, there's 2117 and 2118.
Yep.
So is that just showing, is the 2118 is just showing, what's the difference in the picture?
So the 2117 is showing the natural pigment that's already in the hair. 2118 is showing the color molecule has entered and joined the party. It didn't kick anything out. It just opened the door, stepped in, and closed that door back. So sometimes when you lift and deposit at the same time, if you're lifting and depositing, some of those natural pigments will come out and make room for the permanent color to go in and make that change. So that's the difference in those diagrams right there. And then your 21.16 or 2116 is showing some of your natural pigment in the hair. some of it entering the hair and some of it just resting on the outside. Demi-permanent is meant to fade. Demi-permanent is meant to fade over 6 to 12 weeks, depending on what that person does at home, depending on that color line, the type of shampoo they may use at home. If they're in the sun a lot, if they're in the pool a lot, they might get 6 weeks, they might get 12 weeks. Somebody who shampoos their hair every day in extremely hot water with Suave shampoo is probably gonna get 2 weeks. But for the most part, a demi-permanent is supposed to last 6 to 12 weeks, depending on other circumstances. Permanent color is going to have a little bit of fading. Although it has gone inside the hair, once you raise that cuticle up to put something in there, that cuticle never closes back down 100%.
And I forget, how long does permanent color generally last?
It lasts forever. Like, once it's on the hair, it's on the hair. Once that cuticle has been lifted and has gone in the hair and that cuticle has closed back up, it's trapped. It's been held hostage for a long time.
But it can still fade.
It'll still fade.
Yeah, so like, what's the period of time that it's expected to fade over?
That depends on the client. It's gonna depend on the color line. It'll depend on the porosity of the hair. Like 1,000 things will go into play of that. Somebody who has really good hair, they take really good care of it. They use good shampoo. Maybe they don't shampoo every single day. Maybe they're not in the sun a lot, or they wear a hat. Different things. It's kind of like the person who gets a tan. Some people tan easy, some people don't. Some people burn. Some people's tan lasts forever, some people's does not. So permanent hair color is going to be the same kind of theory. It's permanent in the fact that it goes into the hair strand to stay, but that cuticle never 100% closes back down. Once that cuticle is open, it's not virgin hair anymore. And once you're not a virgin, you're not a virgin. Like, it's just, hair strand is the same idea. Are you laughing at me? So with that, just with that idea, just know that it's going to fade. And that's when, like, the developer that is necessary or needed for the occasion comes into play too. Because if you use a real high developer, the higher the developer, the more that cuticle opens. The more that cuticle opens, the more it doesn't close back 100%. The more gaps it has. The more gaps it has, the more it's gonna leave the hair. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like a flower, like when you see a flower and at first it's just a real tight little bud and it's not blooming yet. Think of that as there's been nothing added to it. It's not opening up. It's not gonna open up, you're not gonna see what's in there. But then as the sun is added, as water is added, as fertilizer is added, it starts opening up and blooming. Eventually it blooms up so much that the petals just fall off. And then you have no more flower. So your hair strand can be the same way. If you're using too much of this and too much of that, it's going to fall off. It's going to break. You're gonna have split ends and damage. So just kind of keep that in mind. Another scenario is shingles on a roof. So you just put a brand new roof on your house. You wasn't expecting a tornado to come next week. So the next week we have a really bad storm and the shingles on your roof start raising up. You have to call somebody to fix that. There's damage there. It's the same thing with the cuticle of the hair. It's like a shingle. It's going to raise and lift and let things in. So if that happens to the roof of your house, it does not care that it was brand new last week. There's now damage that has to be fixed. It has to be repaired. Otherwise, stuff's gonna keep coming in or stuff's gonna keep coming out one way or the other. So these are just the best illustrations that I could find to show that permanent color completely goes inside the strand of hair. Demi-permanent is half and half. Your semi-permanent sits on the edge of the hair, and then temporary color is just kind of there. So The difference in semi-permanent and temporary, because when you look at these diagrams, it's still just sitting on the side of the head. It's still just sitting there. A semi-permanent color are the fashion colors, the directs, they're direct pigments.
The semi-permanent.
Mhm. So those aren't mixed with developer. When you put them on the hair, what they do is stain the outside of the hair. If you have lifted the natural pigment out of the hair so that those colors are visible, it makes it porous. So then you have a sponge that has all the little holes in it. That color then sits in those holes. But every time it's washed, you're knocking some of that color back out of those little holes of that sponge. Every time you wring that sponge out, you're rinsing away some of those color molecules. So that's your semi-permanent. Your temporary color could be a hairspray at Halloween. It's literally put on there for one occasion. One shampoo is gonna take it away. It could be a shampoo or conditioner. Typically a conditioner is gonna have pigment in it. So let's say that you've got really bright, vibrant red hair and you want it to hold. You don't want it to fade. So you purchase the shampoo that has red pigment in it. That could be considered a temporary color because it's just trying to freshen up what's there. It's gonna alter it for a very short time, typically from shampoo to shampoo. So on a different, thinking outside of the box, and sometimes this helps you to understand more, think like your makeup, your foundation, that alters the color of your face. But as soon as you put soap and water to your face, where does it go? Eyeshadow, mascara, same thing. A waterproof mascara could be considered more of a semi-permanent. Because it's not permanent, it's coming off, you didn't get it tattooed on there, but
You gotta do a little work.
you gotta do a lot of work. And as you're roughing up your eyelashes in order to get that mascara off that's waterproof, you're probably losing some eyelashes at the same time. So it's a vicious cycle of what to do and what not to do.
So when do you use demi-permanent? Like what's the reason people use demi-permanent?
So let's say that you've got somebody that's coming in, let's say with you, you've got your blonde hair, and you're thinking for the fall, she wants to add some lowlights.
Mm-hmm.
So if you add permanent color to this, and you go in highlight, low light, and in that full for say a brown, you use a permanent color. That opens that cuticle completely up. It puts that color completely in, and because her hair is so blonde, it's gonna be more porous, so it's not gonna hold as well. But if you were to put that on there, that's more of a permanent color. She comes back next visit, I don't really like that no more. So it's there. It's either faded off if it's really porous, or it's there. And when it is there, then that means that you are doing more damage to the hair using a lightening product to pull it back out, where if you would have used a demi-permanent color, it was just half and half anyway.
They just kind of want, it's like something they just want for a season, or maybe even like a situation where you come in and say, like she said, I think I want to start getting my hair darker again,
Yep.
but want to test it out
Yep.
before you, okay.
I've used it before. I've had clients who were solid white. Their root line was as white as this sheet of paper, just white. They were retiring. They did not want to keep color on their hair anymore. I thought, okay, I don't know why you want to look old now, but that's up to you. So in order to do that, instead of putting permanent color on, which was not going to allow it to grow out, I would use a demi-permanent color, so that root line was covered for that 6 to 8 weeks. But by the time they came back to me, that root line was here because it faded off. The next time, that root line was here because it faded off. The next time, it's here because it faded off. And if she's cutting an inch off every time, eventually you have just her natural hair without having to use a lightener to do so. Because you could absolutely go in and just lighten it, just pull all that out. But if you want to try to save the integrity of the hair, and just let it be natural, that's the easiest way to do it.
The permanent, right?
Uh-huh. And then demi-permanents are also considered toners. Toner is not a product, it's a service.
Not a well-lit T18.
No. It is not a Shades 9V, it's not a Rusk 6A. Toners are a service in the salon, it is not a product. If you walk into our wholesale stores, Cosmo, Salon Centric, Sally's, whatever, if you find a bottle or tube of something that is labeled TONER, it's gonna be a unicorn. It's gonna be a miracle that something is labeled toner. That is a service that people provide. And a lot of times it's used with demi-permanent color. Most of the time, not always, because Rusk did have a cream demi-permanent, which comes in a tube like this. But most of the time it's gonna be in the bottle, like a Shades. And it's mixed with a different developer. The peroxide is less, yes. So that's when demis are used. So permanent is typically used for somebody that's got gray hair. They want a permanent change. They don't want it fading out. They want a root line. They want that line of demarcation of 1 inch or 2 inches or whatever when they come back to you 6, 8, 10 weeks later. They don't want that root line to keep growing every time. But if you've got somebody who changes their hair a lot, even if they are gray, even if they have a lot of white, you might want to use demi-permanent because it's less work for you as the stylist trying to get them permanent molecules back out of the hair versus something that's gonna fade
And
anyway.
it's just not gonna damage their hair as much.
Right, it'll save the integrity of hair. So these papers should be more or less within that packet where it's got the types of hair color. If y'all wanna pull that staple out, we can restaple it.
They're saying it should be stapled in there.
Where it says the types of hair color.
Okay, types of hair color, and is it all set?
It was in this
It looks
packet.
like this, but I'm not really sure what are we supposed to write in the box.
So like with the types of hair color with permanent, you might want to put, use for gray, use for white. It actually goes inside the strand of hair, that kind of thing.
Some examples.
Yes,
Okay.
just so that you remember more.
Okay, I'll shut that on this.
And like the temporary, it's just gonna stain it's gonna stain the hair. So just give examples of what that might be, just so that it helps you to remember what's going on. Okay, so then the level system. There are 2 level systems, but they are so similar that it matters but doesn't matter at the same time. Rusk is an Italian-made color. It's on an international level system. So Redken, I believe, is an American level system. So the difference might be the description between 1 and 10, or so like on the bottom of this chart right here, like where it tells you like the pale yellow, gold, orange, like that description may be different by a itsy bitsy tea tiny bit between an American level system and an international level system.
Do you mean like the description of it? Because that's like, I know that level 1 is black, I know that 10 is super blonde,
Yep.
but
6 might be
what's in
different.
between?
Yeah, 6 might tell you medium brown.
Okay.
So like for Rusk example, if we want to fill that in based on this, their description is, so their 10 is ultra light blonde. Their 9 is very light blonde. The 8 is light blonde.
You want us to fill this in at that top box, this top part?
Yeah, that chart right there.
What did you say?
On the very
nine?
top.
What did you say? Nine?
Very light blonde.
Very light blonde. 7 is considered a medium blonde. 6 is considered dark blonde. There's nothing blonde about a level 6. 5 is light brown. 4 is medium brown. 3 is dark brown. 2 is your darkest brown. And 1 is black. So, and that's based on an international level system. So, Rusk also gives you a natural level chart, and the chart that I gave, like the little small charts, I've got one somewhere. Yeah, so that one, okay, look at that chart, and see if it matches what we just filled in right here. I've got some more. Because it may be, I pulled that one off Google, so it may be completely different. Oh, my face is itching. It may say medium brown versus light brown, or medium blonde, or dark blonde. It may give like a very.
So you're saying each line is gonna have their own level system?
It's either going to be American or international. So American.
So what's your product line, like Matrix is American, right?
Yes. So, like that 6 dark blonde, it may not, at that point, they may consider that dark brown, light brown, medium brown. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that description may be just a little off, but your level is still your level. But that description will throw you off sometimes. So if you see something different than what we wrote in right here, it's typically going to be an American level system or an international level system. Sometimes you won't see any difference at all whatsoever. Sometimes you won't. But
Now, what is the one that we filled in?
this is a Rusk, an international. And let me see if I've got that chart.
And can I get one too, if you have an extra one?
When it says natural underlying tone versus description, where does that come in?
These are all the same. So that means,
Yeah.
take it, girl. I'm trying to give you another one.
Thank you.
So yeah, that matches. Okay. So
So this is international.
yes.
This one's international?
Uh-huh. So this is another little thing, like a little Rusk tool that they gave us, like when we go teach color classes. So this, I got all kinds of stuff. I've got information coming out my ears. But in the book, they break it down to what you need to neutralize there. So when you have a natural underlying pigment, so black, just going by the chart that y'all have, just a little chart that I gave you, black is dark red brown.
Does that mean if, what do you mean by that? Like, what their hair is versus what they want it to be?
Okay, so have you ever been in a salon yourself or heard somebody say, my hair pulls red? Okay, everybody's hair does. It's the law of color. There's no way around it. The only person who does not pull red hair is somebody who is naturally a level of 6 or lighter. Their hairs are going to pull orange gold down to pale yellow because that's their underlying pigment for their natural level. But anybody who is a level 1 down to that level 4, when you start putting lightener on their hair, to lift those natural
That's
pigments
what it's
out,
gonna pull.
that's what it's gonna show.
Okay, that makes sense.
So people say, my hair pulls red. No, it doesn't pull anything. It reveals what's under there.
So a 1 through 5 is gonna reveal red.
It's gonna reveal, well, up to orange, yes.
That's because my hair usually pulls like a gold color.
So if your natural
It's not a
level
7.
is 7, then you put lightener on your hair, you're not gonna see a red tone, you're not gonna see a red orange, you're not gonna see orange.
Instead of gold
Because
yellow.
you're already lighter than that on a natural level.
Okay, that makes.
Makes sense?
Mhm.
See, I told you, okay, so her light bulb's coming on, so this is her refresher day, so her light bulb's coming on. So as we talk about this throughout the entire semester, you are gonna be going, oh my God, that makes sense now, it makes perfect sense.
And I'm assuming once we really start like putting color on something.
You're gonna-
it'll, like,
It's gonna be light bulb, light bulb, light bulb, light bulb. But I just don't feel like when you're reading through the book, you're getting the detail that I'm giving you. So,
And there's even what's in there, there's so much information, it's like,
Yeah.
if you don't understand what it means, you just read.
so for chemical, I feel like break the protocol a little bit and do 2, if not 3 days of a detail theory class for y'all. So this chart right here is just a fill-in of that little chart that I just gave you. So another example of pulling red, and you're not pulling, you're revealing. Have you ever seen a dog with black hair that lays out in the sun, or dark brown hair? It lays out in the sun and it starts turning red. You start seeing those red tones. The sun has broken that molecule down to reveal that underlying pigment. No different than on the dog than it is on us. If their hair is black or brown and it's fading down naturally, you didn't put bleach on their hair. You're just like, God, why isn't my dog turn red? What's going on? That's so pretty. He's kind of auburn. Well, that's where he lays in the sun so much and the sun fades the hair. So that's proof that your hair will fade, no matter what. Like if you're in the sun a whole lot, it's just naturally gonna happen. But this right here, I will refer to, so like when I was saying the other day about putting those, the sheets to keep up with our labs in your red or green folders. All of this, if you want to, can hole punch and go in that too, because those folders should come with you to class every day so that we can keep up with our labs. And then when I refer back to this, you'll have it. You'll have it there, because I'm gonna refer back to this information a lot. I don't expect you to memorize it, I don't expect you to know it, I don't expect you to understand it today, but even like today, so this is her second time hearing it, I can see like the light bulb. She's like, oh my God, okay, that's making sense. So that's a good thing. But the level system is super, super important to know and to understand. Did I bring my stuff? I think I left it in my other bag. So you need to know natural level before you can even get started on somebody's hair.
So, hey, like, here, let's just say you're a level 5. So your underlying existing pigment is red. So, when you lighten it.
A level 5, you're gonna be orange.
I'm looking at that bottom, the one that's all completely filled in.
So that one is showing you,
Level 5 on the left is
exposed
already.
pigment. Okay,
completely
so that one's confusing.
Okay,
Kind of block out that first one, because we're not gonna understand that till like way down the road.
yes,
That first, yeah. So you want to, like, the one that says pale yellow
yeah.
down, that's gonna match this little chart right here, just pay attention to that. Cause the first box that says pale yellow down to blue, we're not gonna understand that for a long time. So just follow more of the chart, that little chart that I gave, that little chart. Follow that more right now.
Well, my question is, if you, basically like it's showing you that like if you were a level 10 and your hair is pale yellow, it's, when you lighten it, it's still gonna expose a pale yellow.
Yes.
So that's how those are reading out, like if you lighten it, it's gonna show you what that what
It's
that
gonna pull
level's
down to
gonna
that,
lighten
yep.
to. Okay.
No matter what, if somebody is a natural level 5. God, I hate opening this book. I'm gonna hit the button. Matrix Headwood. So if somebody is a natural level 5, this is what their hair is gonna look like, natural. Not color, not pigment. This is what Mother Nature gave them. So when you put a bleach, when you put a lightener, if you put a 20 or 30 volume, and you start lifting this natural level up, it is going to, it's going to reveal orange. If they want to be orange, perfect. You done your job. Yay! If they don't want to be orange, you have to know what to do to fix it. So according to the complementary colors, what corrects orange?
Blue green,
The blue.
or blue.
The blue, yep.
Oh, yeah, I was looking at the wrong one.
So at that point, you have to know how to fix that. So that's why that chart in your natural level finder is so important. So when you are determining your natural level, you do so by grabbing right over the base of the hair. So like you find the apex of the head, and it's gonna go over the crown of the head, because all of this is hit by sunlight. So even if it's hit by sunlight just very little, it is still hit by sunlight. So you want to go just over the crown of the head and take this top piece, drop it out of the way. And then what's left, you want to take like that small little piece, like what we were saying the other day, you'll be able to see through it. This right here is your natural level. That's gonna be your truest natural level.
Cause that was covered, it's not getting any sun.
Not getting any sun.
Right.
And if it's getting sun, it's getting very little sun. So if somebody has natural hair from root to end, then that's virgin hair all the way down. You can check it all the way down. But if it's the root that you're checking, this chart is not great, because you can't fan this out. So my other one that I have, like you can pop those little things off, and you can take that hair and fan it out and kind of place it in there. That's the best way to find your natural level, because when it's bunched together, it's automatically darker. When these are bunched together, it's automatically darker. But then when you fan it out, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's not as dark as I thought. So you'd want to be able to fan this out and stick that at the root in order to find that natural level. So once you know their natural level, and now we're on this page, once they know their natural level, you also at that time want to find their percentage of gray. So to determine the natural level, you're gonna use a natural level card.
This is the one that says Guide to Successful Formulation.
Yes. I don't have mine with me that I like so much. I mean, worst case scenario, that will work. But the ones that you can fan out are the best. I think I left them in my other bag, but
Just gonna use a natural color guide.
A natural level card.
so here's a piece of one. So some natural level finders will come different to where they like actually pop off a little thing. When they do, that's perfect, because you can take this, you can fan it out, you can put that at the root and be like, ooh, that's too dark. Then you can start over. It's hard to do that with this chart, like it's just a whole lot going on right there. So I hang on to, like, even when my swatch books are discontinued or they've been replaced, if it ever has a natural level finder in it like this, I hang on to them. I might throw the book away, and I might keep 1 or 2 pages out of it for visual references for teaching, but I always keep the natural level finders that you can fan out like this. So once you stick that to that part of the hair, and you're like, oh, that 2 is a little bit too dark. Take another 30 seconds, take another 10 seconds, whatever. Keep going down. Try to find that level. Don't guess. Guessing the natural level can cause you a 3-hour screw up. Because once you've done it, and they're finished, and they're sitting there going, I look like I'm going to Halloween. I just went from white to black. There's nothing you can do. There is, but not quick. You can't just take it to the shampoo bowl and erase it. Like it doesn't work that way. If you don't have anybody else booked after that person and you've got another 3 or 6 hours to kill, perfect. But it's a whole lot easier to find where you're starting so that you don't have that major mistake to have to fix.
So every time you have a client, you use that?
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen, well, I don't know, I've been going to her for a long time.
Now, if I'm doing a lightener and I know that I'm taking somebody light, then not necessarily, because it doesn't matter. They want to be lighter than what they are. Like, would it help me if I was doing a color or if somebody wants to do low lights? If they're a level 6, this is not a level 6, but if they're a level 6 and they want to stay within natural change, they don't want it to look so dramatic, then I know to stay within 2 levels of that, one way or the other. I know to go either a 7 and 8, or I need to go within a 5 and a 4, because that's going to give them a natural change nonetheless, but a more natural end result, more natural look. If they are a level 6 and I put a 3 or a 2 in there, it's going to look like you took a black magic marker and just those pieces of hair. If they wanted a low light and they wanted it to look more natural, and if I didn't take the time to find out where they're at, then you could easily screw that up, just guessing. So, outside, but other than lightning, I'm always gonna check. Now, a lot of my clients, I don't take new clients. I don't have time to. I don't have time to. I'm like, sorry, wish I could. Thanks, tell so-and-so thanks for the referral, but I don't have time to take you. So a lot of my people I've done for 8, 9, 10, 12 years. I don't necessarily check them every single time.
Yeah.
But if it's a new person, I need to know where I'm starting at. At the time that you're checking their natural level, go ahead at that point and decide how much gray they have. And a lot of times, y'all, when you're combing through their hair and you're like, oh, let's just check here, and let's just check here, you're also looking for bugs.
Yeah.
You don't tell them you're looking for bugs, but you're looking for bugs. You don't want to say, well, girl, I just think like you might have some bugs up in this hair. So you don't tell them that, but you definitely want to check for bugs. Because if they have lice, if they have nits, if they have eggs, you cannot perform that service. That's when you have to tactfully find a way, which I'm not good at, without scaring them to death, like, you got to go.
Have you had that happen very often?
I've had it happen twice.
Ever? Just twice? Okay.
In 13 years.
That makes me
And one was a little old lady, and she had to know. And I was getting ready to shampoo her. I'm combing through her hair, because if I'm going to do a haircut, I'm combing through their hair so that they can tell me if they have cowlicks, if they have this, if it parts here, if they have trouble doing this, doing that, whatever. And I'm combing through their hair as they talk, but I'm also looking for bugs. I didn't see anything, didn't notice anything. I got her to the shampoo bowl, and as soon as that water hit that blonde and gray hair, or like half blonde, half gray hair, the little veins and them things lit up. And I was like, and I'm standing there going, So I went next door, cause we was in private rooms, I went next door and I said, hey, come here. Cause I don't wanna
Oh,
embarrass.
you're making my head itch.
I know, I'm
just
sitting here going,
talking
and I
about
don't
it.
wanna embarrass anybody ever, like if I ever embarrass you in a situation, it's a total accident, like I don't purposely try to embarrass anybody. So I went and I got her and I was like, hey, come here, what is this lady got looks like? She's like, I don't know. So she come in there and looked, and that lady just laying there, she knew she had her. So then, I go downstairs and the lady that owned the place has no tact at all, zero. She come up there and she goes, God, yeah, you got wise, you need to go, you gotta get out of here. And just the whole hallway, down the stairs, the whole bit, it just echoed. So the two ladies had called and wanted to know, was there somebody that could do a haircut? I said, where are you at? Are you in the parking lot? If you're in the parking lot, then blah, blah, blah. So she said, well, now you can be my friend. I said, no. No, I said, because I still have the appointment in an hour that I told you that I couldn't do both of you in the first place. Coming, I said, now I have to go and disinfect this room. You could have done open heart surgery in there by the time I got finished. But she had to leave with a wet head, like you can't you're highly contagious, you can't do anything. So take the opportunity to find the natural level and the gray as you're also trying to whatever. So in that situation, that lady wasn't necessarily clean, but most of the time, lice is gonna be on your cleanest clients. It's gonna be on the entire cheerleading team. They have shared brushes, they've whatever, it's super contagious, super contagious. And lice likes clean hair. It cannot stick to dirty old hair.
I'm trying to tell my husband that. He can't talk about my little boy. Anytime a kid gets to school, he will get it.
Yep.
And he's like, he's dirty, he's not tight. And I was like, it doesn't matter.
No, it's the clean, it's
He's
clean.
clean.
They share brushes. Yep. Yep. So if you have kids in school, they will tell you to use tea tree shampoo or something like that, something that has tea tree in it. They don't like they say lice don't like the smell.
Neither do kids.
Exactly. Yes, I like it. It does, it stinks.
So I'm like, I don't care.
I agree, it stinks. And I'm allergic to it, like that polyester stuff, it breaks my hands out. But if you just use hairspray, you don't necessarily, just something on the hair so that the hair's not squeaky clean, that you can't attach to it. So anyway, you want to find the natural level, bugs, and gray hair.
Yeah.
So when you are finding the percentage of gray, if you are looking at somebody, so let's say I'm looking at Erica, right now, looking at her, I see no gray, no white, no silver, nothing. But I might be looking around her head, she might have like a huge stripe of natural white somewhere else. So that area of the head, if that's what I see first, that might be considered 100%. Where this that you see is 0%. So you might have to mix 2 bowls of color to formulate for the gray that's at 100% or more than 50%, and then another bowl of color where there is no gray at all. So my hair, and this is been there since I was like 18, like that white piece, that's been there forever. When I color my hair, I don't mix 2 bowls of color, I put it on. I don't care. But if I'm putting a level 6 on my whole head, and I put level 6 that's not formulated for gray on that place that is 100%, it might look more like a 7 if not an 8. Because you're not starting in the same, your starting point's not the same. Starting point in one place is a 10, starting place in another is a 6.
So if
It's not gonna match.
you were your customer, you assess your hair, find the natural level, and then where you've got that little white place in your hair, you just formulate a small batch of something.
For that area.
Would you put that because it's gray, you put that on first,
First.
so it has more
Time
like
process.
would you do it like with a 10 ball,
Yes.
so that it has, like you can sit on that longer?
Yes. And this is where there's discrepancy between color lines. Old school color is you always use 20 volume for gray coverage. Rust, that's not the Rust book. Rust, they formulate with 10 volume because you're depositing only. Now they do have a new 10-minute color that it takes you longer to mix and apply it than it does for the process. It processes 10 minutes, that's a processing time, that's it. But that one has its dedicated developer, which is a 20 volume. It's not its regular 20 volume. It's not the 20 volume that goes with the rest of the color line. It just goes with that specific 10-minute line of color. But always know what the brand you're using, what it's telling you. Some tell you 10, some tell you 20. I don't agree with 20, you're depositing only. But if that's what the color line tells you, that's the way they've tested it. That's where they know it works at. Me, I don't care if that matches. I don't care. That's just dimension. That's natural dimension to me. But if you have Petty Betty in your chair and she wants every piece of hair to look exactly the same, she wants it aqua from root to end. She doesn't want to see a variation on the corner. Then you have to formulate accordingly. And a lot of times you know your clients. You know what they are, if they're picky or if they really care. And some of them will tell you, I don't care, just don't, if it's got dimension, it's got dimension. But if they are adamant that they are covering their gray, just be on the safe side and mix a little small batch and always apply that first. It might be on the temple. It might be back here on the underneath. It could be on the bottom. It could be it could be anywhere. But wherever it is, you apply that first. Now, if their whole head is solid white, you just start where you start and you work as fast as you can. There's nothing you can do about that. So once you have found your natural level and your percentage of gray, you want to determine the desired level. So natural level is what Mother Nature gave you. Desired level is what they want Matrix, Rusk, Paul Mitchell, Joico, whatever, to give them. Okay? So they might be a natural level 6, but then they might want to be a, oh, their colors are pretty. They might want to be a 5 VR. So they might be a natural level 6, but their end goal is a VR, a 5. So that's going one level darker and it's changing their tones of color. So at this point that they tell you a desired level, you also want to discuss maintenance with them. Because they may be telling you that they want to go from that level 1 to a level 10 and it be silver. Well, you're not going to do that in one visit, honey bunny, but it's also going to cost you a mortgage. Are you ready for that? You can safely lift somebody's hair. Lift means you're pulling pigment out. Mm-hmm. You can safely lift 4 levels at a time. So if they're a level 1 and you move them 1, 2, 3, 4 to a 5, that's going to be safe for one visit and to keep the integrity of the hair. At a level 5, what is that underlying pigment?
Hang on, you said you can safely lift 4 levels at a time.
Orange.
Mm-hmm.
And what was your second question?
So if they're a level 1, you move them 1, 2, 3, 4 levels. That's a level 5. What's that underlying pigment that's going to reveal?
Orange.
Orange. Okay. Did they tell you they wanted to see orange?
Really not.
They wanted to be what?
But I want the orange for a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, but at that point, like, you don't wanna leave them walking out orange.
No.
So, gonna give them like a different, are you just,
Toner.
right, toner,
That's where you're gonna do the service.
which is gonna be the
Toner.
demi-permanent
Yes,
or semi-permanent,
yes, demi-permanent.
demi.
So you can do one of two things. When you get them to orange, because the law of color tells you that's where they're gonna get to, you can then enhance that color and let them be warm in their natural level and have that dimension. If you did a whole lot of highlights or maybe the ends or something like that. Or you can go ahead and remember, you lift up, you tone down. So if you lifted them to a level 5, you can only tone them with a 4. You can't tone with a 5. You have to lift up and tone down. So you've lifted them to a 5, you see orange. You can't tone with a 5. You're gonna have to cool it back down with a 4. So at that point in your color line, you find their cool colors and you choose a way to tone. So this is a 4A, so that's dark brown ash. And you're like, well, I don't want to put that back on there, I just lifted it out. You don't have a choice. You're either going to enhance what you revealed or you're going to neutralize what you revealed. There's no other option other than let them leave like a pumpkin.
Which is gonna make them mad, and they're gonna tell all their friends, and everybody they see.
Yes.
It's
She
really
makes you leave like that? Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Well, you didn't want to pay me to do the work neither. So anytime you find their natural level, you know what they want as a desired level, it's a great time to discuss what steps are gonna have to be taken to get there, what you charge for these steps at a starting rate, because mine are all starting rates. I'm not giving you a guaranteed price till you're walking out my door. I don't know how much product I'm gonna have to use. I don't know how many times I'm gonna have to do this. Now if it's my ear, I'm not charging you for it, but if it's something that has to be done, you get charged for it. So that's a good time to talk maintenance. So, I had a guy, he wanted to be completely blonde all over, and he's probably a level 3. He might be a 4, I didn't even check, but his hair is dark and his mom's sitting there, and he wanted to look like a tennis ball, pretty much. I said, you been watching old Eminem videos? So his hair on front is real long. His hair on the sides is a 3 guard, that's short. I said, the problem with that is I have to lighten every bit of it. When that starts growing in 2 days, in an hour, you look like you've got dirt on your scalp. And it's your hair coming back your natural level. I said, so in 4 weeks, we're gonna go through the same process again. I said, if I can't get you to here in one visit to begin with, I'm not gonna get you to here in the next visit when I have to do your roots. It's a vicious cycle. I said, and you're gonna be in this salon for hours at a time. I said, is that what you want? And at first he was like, yeah. So that day we ended up just doing fulls and doing everything that was on top, the horseshoe right here, that was long, probably 4 or 5 inches long. And he sat there forever trying to get his hair to lift through those stages.
How's his mom doing? No, that's not true.
Yeah. Well, his mom, she lets him do whatever. And she was getting her hair done at the same time. So he's literally sitting there through her entire color appointment, and he's still sitting there trying to lift up. Because you can move past 4 levels. You can absolutely go past 4 levels. It's just safely, you want to stay within 4, maybe 5 levels, safe. Keep the integrity of the hair. So,
She needs to work on his confidence.
yeah. And I was like, do you want to do this every time? So, of course, he was ready to go. Like, he's like, I ain't doing this every 4 weeks. I said, but you're going to have to do it every 4 weeks because you're going to look like you just came straight out of Lindale
Love that.
at the Dollar General in your pajamas. Like, you can't be walking around like that. I said, if you're going to walk around like that, you're not going to tell nobody I did your hair. Like, no. Do not do that. So, that's why at step 2, it's important to understand where you're starting, what they want, and what the maintenance will be. Now, what they want and what you end up doing might be totally different, because they might be like, I don't wanna be orange for any amount of time, and, I don't wanna pay you a mortgage to get there. So then that's where you come up with plan B. Okay, so step 3 and step 2, I just kinda combine those. So when you determine the tonal value desired, that's when you're gonna determine cool or warm. You know that if you can lift her to a level 5 safely, that you're going to reveal orange. If you can lift her to a level 6, it's going to be orange gold. If you can lift her to a 7, it's going to be gold orange. So you have to already know what to expect to work with. Does she want to maintain that warm color and you're going to enhance that warm color? Or are you gonna neutralize it? What does she want to see in result when she gets to that level 6? Does she want to see a level 6 warm? Does she want to see a level 6 cool? At that point, I do not advise to show her the entire swatch book. I advise to pull out a red and a copper and a cool, whether it be violet or an ash page. These are cools, these are warms. If she doesn't know, if she wears silver jewelry, she's probably a cool tone. If she wears gold jewelry, she's probably a warm tone. If she wears a rose gold, she's probably neutral.
Wait, you said silver jewelry is cool?
If somebody,
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Cause I like some gold.
I like to, and if somebody can do either, cause I can pull off either, I can do silver or gold. That person is a very neutral tone, like they can go either way. But,
What'd you say about rose gold?
like if they wear a rose gold, they're probably neutral. And they know they're neutral, they can't make up their mind. They don't know if they wanna wear silver, they don't know if they wanna wear gold. So they just go right down the middle. So,
So you said that once you determine the natural level and how much maintenance they want, you determine if you wanna neutralize it or tone it?
well, that, like step 2 and step 3 are real tight together. So at step 2, you're gonna determine where they want to be. So they're gonna start with a 6. We're gonna say they wanna start with, let's say that they start with let's say they're starting with a 3 and they want to be a 6. So at a level 6, what's that underlying pigment?
Gold orange.
The orange gold. So you know right there when you have determined their natural level and they have pointed out something in the book that indicates that they want to be a 6, you automatically know that you're going to reveal a warm underlying pigment of orange gold. Somewhere in that ballpark, you're gonna see orange gold. That's when you have to discuss with them, are we going to enhance that orange gold and maybe do a copper to enhance it? Or we're gonna cool it off and give you more of a violet tone or an ash tone. So step 2 and step 3 are super, super close as far as determining those all at the same time.
And step 1 is determining their maintenance level?
Their natural level. You're before you do anything at all, you're gonna determine where you're starting and if they have gray and how much gray. And then 2 and 3 are so close together, because you're gonna, as soon as you determine what desired level they wanna be, you'll automatically know that there's an underlying pigment that's gonna be revealed. Are they gonna enhance that? Are they going to neutralize that? And another thing, like super quick, when you look at that underlying pigment chart, is there a single cool color there? On your, on the underlying pigment chart that I gave you, is there a cool color there? Nope. Never will be either. That's the law of color. So everybody will tell you, my hair pulls red, my hair pulls orange, my hair pulls gold. Everybody does, not just you, everybody does. Every single person pulls a warm underlying pigment. It's the law of color. Nobody with natural virgin hair, nobody will ever reveal a blue, a green, or a violet. Never. Not naturally, never. Now, if they have pigment on their hair, and you put a lightener on top of that, then at that point, if they have blues or they have violets or something, then you might reveal some of those unnatural pigments, but natural pigments will never ever reveal a cool tone. Never. Never, ever. Jason, do you want to go do a favor and copy this for them? Because it tells them like at what point, and if you'll copy that, then we will hand that out to everybody too.
Oh, you made it do enough for the class next week?
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so once you have found the natural level and the desired level, then at that point you know that there's going to be an underlying pigment that's going to be revealed. Either you're going to enhance it and they're going to stay at a warm tone, or you're going to neutralize it and we're going to cool it off. Okay? The final hair color result is a combination of the artificial color molecules and the underlying pigment of natural hair. Always. Every single time. Every single time. And I've got that written right there for you. So the final hair color result is a combination of artificial color molecules and the underlying pigment of natural hair. And the more you lift, the more warmth you expose. The only time that you will ever reveal all 10 underlying pigments is if you have someone with a level 1 and they want to be a level 10. Kardashian. I don't think their hair's real. I don't think their hair's real. But if somebody with that dark of hair were to go to that silver ash that they wear, at that point, they are going to reveal every one of these underlying pigments. You have to. You have to look like this at some point to look like this at some point. You have to. And if you try to do it too fast in a hurry, you're going to look like the hair that's in the garbage because it's going to break and damage so bad. Okay, so once you determine natural level, desired level, and whether you're going to enhance or neutralize those underlying pigments, you've got to determine whether you're going to lift or deposit. So if you're lifting the hair, that means you're going lighter. If you're depositing, that means you're going to go darker. So typically, for deposit or up to one level of lift, that's going to be your 10 volume.
Can I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
You said about enhancing or neutralizing.
Yeah.
So if you're enhancing, that's from,
Yes.
you can use full board work to do that, or?
If you're enhancing it, you're going to enhance what you reveal. So you have revealed gold orange, you're going to put a gold on there. If you have revealed orange, you may put a copper on there.
And it's typically a similar.
Yes.
and
You're just
neutral-
making that raw, warm color. So like this would be a raw, warm. That's what's laying under the natural level that Mother Nature gave you. When you lighten it down, it reveals these colors at some point. And either you want to enhance this and make it a rich, warm color, or you want to neutralize that down and cool it off.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Either you're going to throw some more fuel on that fire and make it richer, or you're going to throw some water on there and cool it off.
So when you neutralize, that's when you use the complementary color. to break
Yes.
down.
Yes. When you neutralize, you are using complementary colors. Yes. So if you are depositing only or one level of lift, you're gonna use 10 volume developer. If you're gonna lift up to 2 levels, it's going to be 20 volume.
What, one level is 10 volume?
Uh-huh. If you're lifting up to 3 levels, that's 30 volume. And if you are lifting 4, it's 40 volume. With lightener, that doesn't necessarily come into play. You can lift the hair with lightener, with a bleach product with 10 volume. You can do it with water. You could do it with shampoo, like a soap cap is what it's called. But if you are going to deposit only, so if you are a natural level 6 and you want to be a natural level 5, that's only moving 1 level.
So use
10 volumes, all you need.
So that's,
Thank you.
if you're lifting, you're going lighter.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, but if you're depositing, you're going darker. So let's say that you wanted to, let's say that you're a level 5 and you want to be a level 7. So you're gonna go lighter. So you're gonna go from 5 to 7. How many levels is that?
2.
Okay. So let's say that you were a 5 and you wanted to be and at a level 7, what's that underlying pigment? Gold orange. So if it's gold orange, are we going to enhance that or neutralize it?
What are you trying to achieve?
It's up to you.
Oh, okay, you didn't say specific then.
It's up to you. So as the client, if they want to go from a 5 to a 7 using color, not lightener, not bleach, you automatically know that you're using 20 volume. But you also have to determine if you're going to use something that's going to enhance that gold. Are you going to use a 7 gold, or are you going to use a 7 ash? They want to be a level 7. They want to be 2 levels lighter than they naturally are. But you know, if you move 2 levels with 20 volume, it's going to do what? Reveal the underlying pigment. So either that tube of color that you pick is either going to be a 7 gold with your 20 volume, or it's going to be a 7 ash with your 20 volume. So that's when you have to determine step 2 and step 3. What level do they want to be, and then what tone do they want to be? That tells you which developer to pick, and it tells you which tube of color to pick, what tonal value to pick. Let's pretend that this is a level 7, MR. We know that that's cool because it's got mahogany with a little bit of warmth. There is no such thing as a 7 mahogany, I don't think, but let's pretend. If they told me they wanted to enhance, and they're not going to tell you this verbatim, but if they give you indication that they want to be a 7 gold, so they're going to, at that point, they are picking out a swatch that is, this is a warm or a gold chart. So this is a 7 gold. If they point to you and tell you this is what they want, and you have determined their natural level is a 5, you know that you can do this. Let's pretend this is a 7G with 20 volume. That's going to enhance that underlying pigment that you're going to reveal. If they tell you that they want to be this, but then you pull this tube of color out of your dispensary, it's a 7, they consider it a pearl, or right here's an ash, so you've got either one of these are cool 7s. Does that look anything close
No.
to the same? They're both level 7, but is it the same tonal value? So if you don't pay attention to what you're doing, and your client tells you she wants to be a 7G, and you're like, oh, okay, well, let's just do this 7P. It rhymes, P, G. Looks like a pretty color, let's just put that on there. You're gonna end up redoing that color service because you gave her the total opposite of what she wanted. Okay, perfect example. Right here, out of these two. Do they look like they're the same depth? Does one look darker than the other?
Which two on top?
This one right here. And I know that's confusing to
It
hold.
is kinda sweet. It's kinda
So like, really all the way down. So like, whether it's, and y'all come up here if you need to, cause I know that's a distance.
Oh, hang on, real quick, you don't get in front of the camera.
Hang on, don't- I forget.
Go ahead.
So with these right here, you've got 9G, 7G, 9P and 7P.
Yeah, that was way different over here.
These are way warmer.
Mm-hmm. So if your person was a natural level 5, and they told you, they picked out this card, and they want to be a 7G, and you know that you can do that, 5 to a 7, that's moving 2 levels, so that's 20 volume. So at that point, if you're going, and they told you she wants this, but you thought this box looked so much prettier, so you pick out this box. If you pick out this box, what's that end result gonna be? Warm or cool? Is that what she wanted? No. Does this look brighter than this? Does this look lighter than this? That's the difference in warm and cool. Same level, exact same level, both are 7s, but that looks more like a 6 to me.
Yep.
It's because it's cool, it's got more blue. Blue is your darker, it's got more depth to it.
So you would have a 7G tube of color
Mm-hmm.
that you would use
Mm-hmm.
to fill after you lifted her 2 levels.
Well, no, you could do it all at one time. If you're using color and 20 volume, you just have to know which tube of color to grab.
Okay.
If she tells you, this is where I want to be,
Mhm.
and you go and you get the natural level finder, and you're like, well, you're a level 5. So we're gonna leave you 2 levels lighter. And then she pulls out this card and says, yeah, I like this. That's the color I want my hair. But, and you can, 20 volume, you can do that. That's gonna lift her. But that 20 volume is going to reveal gold orange. This would enhance that gold orange and make it pretty. This is going to cool off that gold orange and neutralize it. Yes. This is your complementary color. You come right across over here and you neutralized it out. But if she told you she wants this and you chose that, you're in trouble. You just did a 2-hour color service that you got to find out a way to reverse. And you can't just take her to the shampoo bowl and rinse it off. So that's why all of this information is important. Now, if you did a 5, if she was a natural level 5, and she wanted to be a 7, and you chose a 10 volume, what's that gonna do?
You're the positive number.
Yep,
Yeah.
not gonna do nothing. You just wasted another 2 hours and your product, because you didn't know which developer to use. If she's a natural level 5, she still wants to be that 7G, and you're like, well, that number 3 is just my lucky number today. Let's do the 30 volume. Then what's gonna happen?
In the process faster, right?
It will in the
Depending
beginning,
on how long you leave it on.
but how many levels are you moving?
3.
3 levels. So at that point, you're at a
8.
8,
Pretty light.
and then at that point, you're revealing
Yellow.
deep yellow. So when you put the 7G on there, okay, but you blew that cuticle up one step further than you had to. Is that color gonna last? Cause that cuticle never closes back down. Now, if she wants to be a level 8, that's perfect.
And you're still gonna get something in between here and here, right?
Yeah. So it's important to understand natural level, the desired level, and cooler wood, and then which developer to use. Now, not all developers are the same. There are some developers out there that are deposit only, and they will be called a processing solution, a balancing motion, shades EQ, I don't remember what they call it, but those are deposit only, and they're usually for demi-permanents. So typically, Rusk used to have a demi-permanent and a tube. It had its own bottle of development. They now have a demi-permanent in a bottle. It has its own bottle of development. It has its own stuff. But now the 10 minutes completely different, because that 10 minute is a permanent color. But demi-permanents, remember, are half and half. But typically for deposit only, has its own bottle of development. So your 10 volume is a 3% peroxide, 20 is 6%, 30 is 9, and 40 is 12, okay? Typically 1 and a half. 1 and a half or 1.9 sometimes. So your Demi is gonna be a 5 volume. Every now and then it'll be high at a 9 volume, and then that percentage is typically gonna be a 1.5%. And they all have their designated deposit only development. Shades EQ has their own. You do not use something else. Rusk has its own. We do not use Shades EQ in the place. We don't switch them out. If we buy this brand in a bottle, a demi-permanent color, and it has its own developer, you buy that. Don't say, well, I got some of this stuff that'll work. It ain't gonna work. And if it does, you're lucky. If it doesn't, you wasted your time buying that bottle of demi-permanent color. You wasted that time doing that on that client. They don't owe you for that. That's your screw up. You didn't know what you were doing. If you charge them for your mistake, you're gonna lose a client. You're gonna badmouth them all over town. So does this make sense for natural level, desired level, why it's important to know if you want to be warm or cool, and how to adjust this? And all this is gonna come into play, I promise.
We don't have that chart, right? I gave us that.
No, not that. Y'all go ahead and take one. And so that's just an enhanced chart of that little one. So if y'all want to cut this off, you're welcome to, if you just wanna publish this and put it in with the information. Either way. Okay, so outside of all of that, once you have determined all of this, and this is all done in like a 10 or 15 minute consultation. Did that punch right? Did that punch right?
Oh, I just missed that, it's okay.
Your mixing and your timing is gonna be determined by the brand of color.
Can you say that, I'm sorry, can you say that?
Your mixing and your timing is gonna be determined by the brand of color. Okay, so Matrix may have a 30-minute time on standard color. They may tell you 20 minutes, no heat, 10 minutes with heat. They may tell you 40 minutes, but it is determined by the brand.
You're saying that Johnny's one, you have to mix it and apply.
Just apply it. Or not mix it, apply it. Because once you mix it, once you start applying it, you want to work fast because it's already working. But the minute you are finished with that application and you put that bowl and brush over here and you set your timer, if it says 30 minutes, it's 30 minutes. It's not 25. Yes, processing time, yep. It's not 20 minutes, it's not 5 minutes, it's not I gotta go to lunch and I'm gonna cut this short by 15 minutes, because you will cut that client's color short, and they won't get the result that they want for the longevity. It might look good leaving the salon, but they're gonna complain to you in a week. My hair's not holding, what's going on? Oh, I wanted to go to lunch with my buddies, that was more important to me. So, that's super important. If the mixing ratio is 1:1, you mix it 1:1. That means 1 part color, 1 part developer. Whether you're doing it in ounces or grams, it doesn't matter. If you use 12 grams of color, then you use 12 grams of developer. If it's 2 ounces of color, then it's 2 ounces of developer. 1:1 means equal. If it's 1:2, then that means you use 1 ounce of color to 2 ounces of developer. Rusk is 1 to 1.5. Yeah. We're all like, why? Why? But you do not veer away from that. And the
But is
reason,
it always more developer than it is color?
not necessarily, if it's 1:1, it's equal.
But I'm saying if it's more, like if it's 1:2, you're using.
The
more
developer is
than
always
color.
the second number,
For
yes.
whatever reason, for some crazy number 3, it's
Yes.
always more developer
Yes.
than just color. Okay.
Yes, your color is always that first, and your developer is always the second of that. The reason that you follow those recommendations is when you have someone who has picked out a chart, or they've looked at this chart and they have chosen a color. Let's say that they choose 6RV. They choose this color right here. This swatch was put on a solid white swatch with those mixing ratios. If this was done at let's say that this is mixed 1:1. So that's what you expect to see. This is the end result that you want to see. If you mix it 1:2, what does that do?
Makes it lighter.
Makes it lighter. It dilutes that color molecule down, okay? So at that point, you're not gonna get a true 6. You might get a 6.5, 7, 8. It might look muddy. It may not look as rich. It may look real dull, but it will not be what the swatch is. If their mix ratio is 1:1, that's how they have done their swatches, okay? If their mix ratio is 1:2, and you mix it 1:1, what happens?
It's not gonna be as bright.
It'll be darker.
Dark.
It'll be darker. So your 6 at that point might go to a 4. And it won't go to a 4, but it's gonna look darker than a 6. It's not gonna be true to swatch. So that's why it's important to follow mixing ratios, okay? This is why it's important to know your color line. Rusk has handbooks galore. I was telling Jesse, this particular handbook is what we use when we go into schools to teach, because it gives different steps of techniques to do. But then there's another one that you can Google. If you go on to Google and you put in Rusk Deep Shine Handbook, it'll pull up a different one, and it's like the Bible of rust color. What did I do? I turned on Google. Oh, don't turn on Google. Matrix may have the same thing. I know that we have the handbooks because I've read them back there. So this handbook is going to tell you how to mix for gray. If it's 50%, less than 50%, more than 50%, 100%, it's gonna give you a formulation chart based on this color to still achieve this swatch for an end result, okay? All color lines have it. Some of it will have it written in the front of the book. Some of it's gonna have like a weird little chart in the front of the book. That's not what this is, but some of them do that. This one is giving you something there. I can't see this because I don't have my glasses. Yeah, I can. So on here, it tells you mix ratio is 1 to 1.5. If you are using a scale, which I highly recommend, we will be using a scale in here. If you are using a scale and you make note, Erica today, 6 RV, 12 grams, plus 10 volume, and I put how many was out there. If I mix that 10 to 20, then I mix that 1 to 2, and not 1 to 1.5 like it suggests. If that was perfect, if she loved it, if there's no complaints, do it again next time. Not a big deal. But if you mix that 1 to 2, this time, next time she comes and you mix it 1 to 1, it's going to be what? Darker. She's gonna be like, it don't look as pretty as it did last time. Why use the same color? You use the same color, you use the same developer, but you did not use the same mix ratio, which changes the depth of it. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's why mix ratio is important. Eyeball and color is not gonna work for me. We will not be doing that.
So I have a question, like when it tells you how to mix it and say, like, you come in and you're having your hair colored versus I come in and I'm having my bag, you obviously need a lot more for my hair because my hair's a lot longer.
Mhm.
So how do you know, I mean, I know eventually once you've done it for long enough, but how do you know how to like gauge what you need to mix up?
That's tough because it takes experience. And usually by my second, like if I do your hair twice, and I'll kind of make a note to begin with, that I use, and I measure in grams, I don't measure in ounces. I'll be like 12 grams of this, 18 of this.
Do you measure in grams because Rusk is in grams?
Mm-hmm. It's the way I was taught when I graduated in the salon that I went to work at, and I was assisting and building at the same time. That's the way she mixed. So she'd be like, Penny, go mix 12 grams of, and like, we used Schwarzkopf color at the time. I can't remember what the lightener was called, but you did not say bleach in that salon. You did not say bleach. And the tub of lightener was called Vario or something like that. I can't remember what it was called. I can picture it in my head, but I can't remember the letters across it. But whatever it was, Penny, go mix up 12 grams and 24. Vario. Penny, go mix up 10 of 511 and 10 of 9RB and 10 volume. She wouldn't tell me how many grams to mix of the 10 volume because I knew the mix ratio. If my total color of these combined colors was 20 grams, then I knew that my total developer was also 20 grams because it was 1 to 1. So if you take 3 tubes of color and you take 3 tubes and it's 5 grams, 5 grams, and 5 grams to custom a color for somebody, that's 15 grams of color. So then that one part of developer is still 15 grams of color. That confuses a lot of people. Well, how do I know? Well, the total amount of color, it doesn't matter if you get it out of 6 tubes, that total amount of color is what your total
So
developer.
if it was Rusk, it would be 15 to 22.5.
Yep. So I just always do even numbers. And I use grams there too because it's easier for me. I'm not a math person. It's easier for me to calculate grams than it is ounces. And it's the way I was trained. I was like, ounces, God, 1, 1.5, 2, 3. I can't, it's just easier. It's easier for me to do. But that's why it is so important for the mixing to understand what you're doing. So when we're in here, we've got matrix color, we've got rust color. It may be different between the two. I can guarantee you that matrix is not 1 to 1.5.
Because Matrix is American too, right?
I think so. I think so. And that 1.5 has nothing to do with them being international. That's what the Brainiacs come up with when they made the color. And even those Brainiacs afterwards was like, what did we do that for?
Yeah.
Ever training, why did we do 1.5? Like, what was we thinking? So timing is also important. If it says 30 minutes, no heat, do not put them under heat. again, they created that color based on certain, steps that they went through testing. If it says to put a processing cap on it, that means that they want extra body heat, but not heat from a blow dryer or the lights or old lady dryer or whatever. They don't want anything other than body heat. If it says 45 minutes for gray coverage, you cannot skip that. It will not cover. If it says 45 minutes, what that means is from the last stroke of color, that's when you start that timer. You don't start the timer when you start up here. You start it on the very last piece of hair strand.
So I have a question. If say somebody comes in and they're partially gray, and it's 45 minutes for gray processing, but say it's 30 minutes for the, just regular hair, for the non-gray. So do you put that color on the gray first, and then do you go ahead and set a timer and let it sit on that gray for 15 minutes before you?
Nope. So if you've got somebody like me, let's say that like you've got somebody, and I've got gray everywhere, but this spot is like white, like silver white. So if that mattered to me, then, and I made sure to let the stylist know that I wanted it all to be covered. I didn't want to see a dimension, blah, blah, blah. They should have 2 bowls of color there. One for that little bitty spot and one for everything else. And if the stylist knew what she was doing, she's gonna paint that gray coverage on first, then move to the other bowl and paint everything else. If you know that color was on there for a solid 15 minutes while the rest of the application is on, you would probably be safe to start your timer at 30 minutes when you put your brush down, because you know that's already been on there. But if you just applied color, just like any old color, it's 45 minutes no matter what. But that's the only way you can skip that. If let's say that you waited and you did that last, and everything else had processed, this had not processed 45 minutes. You've got to let that area process for that 45 minutes, or else you will not get the same end result.
So basically, if you go ahead and do that gray first like you're supposed to, it usually it makes up for that extra time that it needs.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
But you
In
still,
most situations, if you were trying to find a way to bamboozle the clock on that 45 minutes, that would be the only way you could do it, is to paint that first. Now you're gonna have very few people, they are out there, but you're gonna have very few people that have a spot of gray in one area and not sporadic. Mine's sporadic, I have it everywhere, but it's not the first thing you see, like you see that spot.
Okay.
So, you have to be super careful with that. You're gonna come across that spot.
like
on
I
a
went to
rare
school with a
occasion.
girl, and she literally, her hair's as darker than mine, and she has a place like that big in the back of her head, and that's just it, just that one spot. So, I mean, if you were using like foils, would you just like put it on there first, and then do everything else, because it's such a small spot?
If I was doing foils and it's in the back of the head where it's not gonna be seen, I wouldn't
Or
stress about it a whole lot. Even mine, like the way my hair parts over, like you can see it like right there, where that's like super like white right there. But I don't stress about it. I hate to get my hair done. I don't wanna get it done. I hate to get it done. It's awful. I don't like sitting there. I'm impatient. So I don't need you taking more time mixing up extra bowls of stuff. Just put it on there and let's go, But if you do have that Katy Betty, you do need to take that extra time to do that. But it is a rare occasion that you have somebody with a very designated spot that will allow you to cut that 45 minutes. It's very rare, but that would be the only way you could cut that 45 minutes. Okay, so let's see here. And heat, always know about heat. Rusk on their permanent color does not recommend heat. They have their gloss that is in the bottle. It recommends 15 minutes processing with a cap, 5 minutes processing with warm heat. Take that back. It is processed 15 minutes with a cap under heat. That last 5 minutes you remove from heat and you remove the cap. So if you didn't read that color line, you're just gonna put it on there and go on about your business. And it could affect that end result. So always know that too. But with their permanent, they don't recommend matrix. They may or may not. I don't even remember. I need to look at that again. Okay, so primary, secondary, and complementary colors will never change. The list may grow longer and longer if you have an actual color wheel to look at, but it's never going to change. Your underlying pigment and your natural level is not going to change. There is an American level system, there is an international level system, but there is so little difference that it really doesn't matter. And if you know what color line you're using, it's not going to matter either. So natural level, desired level, tonal value is all part of doing the color. That's part of your consultation. Maintenance should be part of the consultation. Like that kid that I was telling you about. You're gonna be in here every 4 weeks or you're gonna look like you shouldn't look, and don't tell nobody I did that. If you let them know today might be a very expensive day. We're doing a root color, we're doing a balayage, we're doing a toner, we're doing a haircut, list goes on. But then next time, unless your ends need to be touched up, we're just gonna touch up your regrowth. You're cutting 3 services off that next go around. So they might want it that one day, knowing that they probably won't have to have that every single visit. $200 today is better than $200 every 6 weeks. You tell me I'm paying $200 every 6 weeks, I'm gonna be like, what horse is involved? Otherwise, I ain't doing it. I don't care about, you know what I mean, like, But you have those other people that they only get their hair done. They don't care. They're not getting their nails done. They don't shop a lot. They don't drive a brand new car. They're not living in like a mansion. They live a very comfortable lifestyle, but their hair is their focus. They don't care if it costs them $200 every 2 weeks. That's where they're gonna spend their money. But you need to know that before you get started, because you don't want to have that person walking around looking crazy, telling everybody that you did their hair, and she didn't warn me of this. Outside of all of that, the next part of importance is the texture, the density, and the porosity of the hair. So you can go through all of these steps all day long, and that's almost foolproof with the exception of somebody with fine hair. Somebody with fine hair, their hair is going to grab color faster than somebody with medium or coarse hair. So if my hair is super fine and it grabs faster and I pick a level 5, if the stylist is educated and knowledgeable in this area, she's gonna know to probably put the 6 on me and not the level 5, because my hair is gonna grab, and that 6 will appear like a 5 because my hair is so fine. Does that make sense? Where the opposite is gonna work with somebody with coarse hair, because their hair is not gonna grab it. It's not gonna open up and accept it as fast as somebody with like super, super fine hair. It's like having a string that you put your hem on your sleeve with, or having a big thick piece of yarn. So think of that. Fine hair, itty bitty string. Coarse hair is that big chunk of yarn that you crochet a blanket with, or whatever you do with yarn. I don't know what you do with yarn, but I know that it exists. So But one is gonna accept something or lighten faster than the other because of the actual density of the hair. The cuticle is the outer layer of the hair. The cuticle is what's going to raise up based on the product and developer that's on the hair in order to let product in or out of that hair shaft. The cuticle is composed of hard, flattened keratin cells. They overlap the hair, kind of like shingles on a roof. The main function is to protect the cortex layer of the hair. The cuticle is translucent and does not contain any color. The pigment is on the interior, not the exterior. So your cortex is inside the cuticle. So at this point, think about a pencil. So this yellow could be the cuticle. The wood could be the cortex, and then the medulla could be the lead, okay? So the cortex is inside the cuticle. It is the most important part of an activity of color.
The cuticle, is that what you said?
The cortex.
The cortex.
The cortex. This area is where the intermediate dyes are deposited, and it contains the hair's natural underlying pigments known as melanin. Under a microscope, it's going to look like a spiral structure of amino acids, which are proteins, and that gives the hair strength and elasticity. So if you have broken that down with a chemical and a chemical and a chemical, you're breaking down the strength and you're breaking down the elasticity of the hair. That's when you get split ends and breakage and boyfriend hair, as I call it. But my boyfriend likes long hair. Well, your boyfriend likes a broom. So in the area of the cortex and the natural underlying pigment, we know, because we just went over it, underlying pigments are all what? What tone? Warm. You will never ever reveal the underlying pigments from the cortex and it'll be cool. Not one time, ever. Not natural. So the medulla is inside the cortex. It's in the center of the cortex fiber. Unlike the lead of the pencil, which is important, your pencil does not work without the lead. The medulla of the hair has zero function, absolutely useless, and sometimes it doesn't even exist. But just in case it is there, they gave it a name. It's the gallbladder and appendix of hair. You can live without it. So the physical structure of each hair's client will affect the final results of a chemical service, whether it be color or another chemical. Your hair color is always a combination of three factors. And that's their hair color, whether it's natural or tinted, their hair type, which is the porosity, the texture, and the density, and then the chosen color, which is their desired level, their desired color. So when we say that it's a combination of their hair color, whether it's natural or tinted, and so the other day when we were doing the demo, and I said zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. Sometimes you might have to match zone 2 to zone 3. You might have to match zone 3 to zone 1. So at that point, that's when you have to not only worry about the natural level at the regrowth, or if it's virgin hair all over, you might have to know where you're at all the way down the hair shaft, all the way down the hair strand, because it can change.
So is that gonna change like the time that you leave it on?
It could,
Because
absolutely
I
could.
know, I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's not gonna be virgin hair,
right,
except for the root.
root, yep.
That's just.
Or unless they're 8
Yeah.
years old or 5 years old, cause
That's
they,
what I don't know, like,
yeah.
how that's gonna change.
so, and all of that comes with experience, and all of that'll start falling into place when we start doing actual hair and not just our mannequin. But, so let's say that, when we were doing zone 1, 2, and 3 the other day, we did zone 2 first, and why is that?
Take
Because it's
longer
gonna
to
take
get
the
them.
longest.
You get hot roots if you do it on the roots first, right?
Yep, you don't wanna touch that root first, cause it's going to process. You just don't want it to that root's gonna process faster. So, when we went back, we did zone 2, and then we went back and we picked up zone 1 and pulled the color through to zone 3. Do we remember why we just have to lightly pull that color into 3?
It's just refreshing it.
It's refreshing it. And if you were completely coloring it, then you want to make sure it's super saturated, but at the same time, the ends are what?
Porous.
Super porous, cause it is old hair. It's been there for a minute. Because even if I got a haircut last week and I cut an inch off, so that's gone, but how long has this piece of hair been on my head? How long has this piece of hair been on my head? The only thing that's fresh on my head is that little bitty dark spot up there, you know what I mean? So, old hair is typically porous. The more porous it is, the faster it's gonna let go of color, the faster it's going to break and damage. So that's when sometimes zone 1, 2, and 3 comes into effect as far as that. Your texture can be divided into 3 primary classifications. And fine hair